All right, all right, all right. Without further ado, let us get straight to it. You saw the title, you know what it's about. Let's jump right straight to it. Come on, let's go.
Straight up and down, this America. Yo, these are the kids of America. Yup, we live in America. Let's show 'em how we live in America.
Plus we just got the sack.
Run up a chick, place a bed, and watch the money move.
Yeah, we're coming back to back. We pulled it, put up in the scallop.
Glock without the safe to hit your lesion with the third degree.
Yeah, in my city, yeah, I'm coming like the reaper.
All right, y'all. If y'all like that song too, that song is by me and a couple of my buddies, you know what I'm saying? It's called America. Ironically, ain't it? Yeah, but anyway, so I want to make this quick video before Super Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? Well, Super Tuesday it is like probably today, and y'all seen it today. But I got some video footage of last night. You know, every time Donald Trump, it's funny because I Google when I'm on YouTube, and you type Trump in the search engines on YouTube, this is what comes up. All kind of bad stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's one group called Media Touch or something like this. Man, they've been talking about Trump since the beginning of time. Probably I don't really know, but yeah. So even the Supreme Court they ruled. You know, so and they keep saying insurrectionists. But anyway, you know, we just gonna let me get this over here, and we just gonna get straight to it, y'all. And we're gonna start with the people that started in Colorado, and let's hear it. Even though it's like they ain't saying like, well, you know, the Supreme Court they ruled. Well, this is America. You know, they should know the law. You know, that's why they there. They there for when the excuse my French, when the shit hit the fan. You know, you take it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, you know, they'll rule on it. If it's injustice, then it's injustice. They know what they need to do. You know what I'm saying? So come on, y'all. Even though they ruled, you know, in favor for Trump, you know, I'm not no Democrat, I'm not no Republican, I'm not none of that. You know, like I said, I'm for what makes sense. You know, and a lot of people can be jumping on my case, you know what I'm saying? Oh, you just a Trump supporter, blah, 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 blah. Nah, it ain't like that because honestly, me personally, I don't think they care. I don't think they care who. It's still gonna be the same thing no matter who in there. You know what I'm saying? For certain people, if you catch my drift. But anyway, let's get into it.
Well, thank you for having me on. First and foremost, I'm glad that they issued a decision.
Yeah, right.
Colorado voters and American voters all across the country deserve to know whether Donald Trump is qualified or not as we go into Super Tuesday. But in terms of the
Some of
bigger
this stuff we're gonna
decision, I'm
skip past.
disappointed. We believe that
I'm
it's
gonna
up
try
to
to get it in. We're gonna
Colorado
try to
or
get it
any
in.
state to determine whether to disqualify oath-breaking insurrectionists from our ballots.
You're gonna hear that word
Ultimately,
over and
the
over.
United States Supreme Court disagreed. Votes for Donald Trump will count, and he is on our ballot. I wouldn't say I was surprised they didn't address it, but it is the big elephant in the room.
She
Only
talking.
two
She talking to
courts have looked
CNN.
at the question
They
of
asking
whether
her
Trump
questions,
engaged in
but
insurrection, and
you
they
know,
both determined that he did. And I think one of the concerns from this decision is that without congressional action, oath-breaking insurrectionists running for federal office will not be able to be stopped from appearing on ballots. Although Congress could act, it's highly unlikely with such a Congress that we have that just doesn't function very well.
man.
I don't think the Colorado
So
Supreme
basically,
Court
she
went
should
too
shit it
far.
on
I think
Congress.
there's different opinions. That's why we have a judicial system as to whether Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is self-executing, whether states can apply that provision of the Constitution to protect our ballots from oath-breaking insurrectionists. And I also think that the big concern is still there. Donald Trump incited the insurrection. He incited that violent mob onto the Capitol to try to stop the peaceful transfer of presidential power. And he has not stopped his attacks on democracy since then.
Here's a question right quick. If I told you to go to the store and rob it for me, would you do it? And if you did do it, don't you know the consequences that come with that? Now, I'm not saying like the insurrection it didn't happen or whatever. But see, what a lot of people don't understand too, what you got to think about, come on, man, just because you hear it on the media and just because you hear it, you know, on TV and stuff like that, don't mean that it happened exactly like that. Now, of course it happened, but if anybody know anything about gangs, I'm just going to throw that out there. Gangs, let's say Crips and Bloods and stuff like this. So you trying to tell me that if I have beef, if I'm a Blood and I have beef with the Crips and I'm at a party and it ain't nothing but in there but Bloods, my people, not my people, I'm just saying, I'm using this as an example. And we at the Blood party, right? We at the gang Blood party. And somebody trying to get at me. You don't think that the Crips would dress up as a Blood and sneak their stuff in there, sneak their way in there and do whatever they need to do? Food for thought.
As an elected official, as Colorado Secretary of State, it's my job to uphold the law and the Constitution. If there is a provision in the Constitution that would bar someone like Trump from appearing on the ballot, it's my job to enforce that. And when there's big questions, well, it goes into litigation. And we've seen that play out exactly how it did. Trump is a qualified candidate. The United States Supreme Court has decided states do not have the authority to remove him. And ultimately, Wolf, it will be up to the American people to save our democracy in November at their voting centers.
Now it's a different type of vibe, huh? Different. Now you said something different. Let's keep going.
Howdy there, partners, and welcome to Rising. We've got another edition of our show for you today. Happy to be here. How about you, Brianna?
Robbie, what are you up to? Have you been listening to the Beyonce album? What's going on here?
No, it just is what came to mind. I don't know.
All right, well, let me giddy up to the news now. The Supreme Court has decided it will take up the issue of whether former President Donald Trump can claim presidential immunity in Jack Smith's prosecution of Trump's alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. The justice's order put...
That's what's next. You see? Now he done fought to get on the ballot. Now the Supreme Court won that. So now what's next? Fannie Willis, yo, if y'all ain't seen him, I covered that. And I don't know if that's even holding water, honestly. So I don't know. So what's next? The one in D.C. and the Jack Smith one? Come on. That's where they're going next with this immunity one. Watch.
Proceedings in that trial on hold, further throwing into doubt whether the case will go to jury before election night in November. MSNBC host Chris Hayes said the court's decision was part of a conspiracy to keep Trump on the ballot and out of the courtroom in 2024. Laughing. Let's watch.
I'm not laughing.
It is an unmistakable sign from the MAGA majority of the Trump-created court that they are with him, that they are going to use their power to make sure he does not face trial in an election year for attempting to end American democracy.
Also of note, just yesterday, a judge in Illinois removed the former president from its state's ballot under the 14th Amendment's insurrection clause, making it the third state to do so after the Colorado Supreme Court's precedent-setting ruling last year. Okay, so we talked about this earlier when the lower court hearing came out, talking about the fact that if the Supreme Court did take it up, it could have a variety of effects on the timing of the trial. There was a sort of best case scenario for the Democrats' version of events where it could still proceed relatively quickly and have a chance of coming to some conclusion before Election Day, or a worst case scenario where there was no possibility, given the scheduling, that could possibly be before the court. And it does seem like there's still an opportunity here from the Democrats' perspective to have this trial happen before Election Day. But the problem is it going to end up being an October surprise? Is it going to end up being too late in the game to really affect voters' decisions?
Right. I mean, look, the process from a legal standpoint just has to play out along its own timeline. The Supreme Court has scheduled this basically as quickly as they possibly can, given that they are going to take it up. What Chris Hayes and other liberals I was seeing on social media are really mad about is that they decided to weigh in on this at all, and rather than just letting the lower court ruling stand, and suggesting that this is an effort to delay the trial so that it takes place after the election. Okay, look, Supreme Court justices are political actors, so I can't rule out that that's part of their calculation. But on some level, I mean, this is a pretty fundamental question, whether the person who occupies the office of the executive branch enjoys this kind of a vast immunity. I don't think anyone should hold that kind of, anyone in elected office should have that immunity from prosecution. We want our, not just Trump, but all political figures to be held to account, to be, when they misuse the powers of their office. So I don't think it's not on its face ridiculous that the Supreme Court is going to consider this question, even though it does have the effect of potentially delaying the trial beyond the election day.
Well, sure, but remember, the Supreme Court takes up a very small number of cases every year. It certainly is not the case that every broadly relevant issue is taken up by the Supreme Court. And remember, this was decided by the D.C. Circuit Court in a unanimous decision that legal experts across the political spectrum evaluated as very conclusive. I don't think even Republicans at this point, or any point really, were arguing that there's any merit to Donald Trump's claims here. Remember, what he's claiming is that basically he is broadly immune from anything because he's the president of the United States of America. It goes fundamentally to the core of what it means for us to be a country in a constitutional republic, a democratic republic. So this isn't really about the merits needing to be decided by the upper court. And I do think there's a very strong case that this is a political decision. But framing it as a conspiracy in the way Democrats have done, it's a little bit of a mixed bag, because here's the problem. It is fine to believe that the Supreme Court is a political institution. Very few people at this point, I think, would argue that it's not. Republicans have been arguing for years against activist judges in the other direction. And now we have activist judges who are conservative in nature that are overwhelmingly influencing the Supreme Court decisions right now. That being said, the Biden administration in particular, and establishment Democrats more generally, have been very skeptical, very hesitant to do anything serious about Supreme Court reform. So it kind of feels like, what are you really complaining about? You understand this is a political institution, and what you're really complaining about right now is that you lost the grips on this particular ability to advance your political efforts through the courts. And Republicans are just in the advantage seat right now.
And it's political both ways. Another state, Illinois, has decided to take Trump's name off the ballot. That's a legal decision. Is that not political? Is that not some effort to make it less likely Trump can win the election? And that's not up to.
I think after SCOTUS did what they did to Colorado, they said it. It's going to be some more videos, and I think this is a little bit late. I think they just talking about the immunity claim right here. But I just wanted to get on there to show y'all about the guy. What's his name? Chris Hayes. How he just. I think I got another one on him with the full video of him. It's about 3 minutes or so. Where he really just I don't know. I can't be that upset at anything. It's not in my control. You know, I just live here, you know, just like probably the rest of y'all. We just here, you know, just trying to pay attention to it, you know, because eventually, you know what I'm saying, it does boil down to us. We are the ones with the votes. We are the ones who we want to put in that office, you know, so we can have a bad person or we can have a better person. I don't know, man. I'm saying, like, that's it. I tell people, honestly, Trump ain't did. I don't know. You know, they say he racist, but when I was growing up, like I said, I'm into hip hop music. I make music. I seen Donald Trump vibe with the black community for a long time. I mean, I don't know. Some people say he racist. I don't know. Maybe I gotta look more into him. You know what I'm saying? But as far as like biting in them, it just, I don't know, man. You can look, you can feel it. You can feel it when you walk outside your front door. That's all.
Also, I think the thrust of like the Chris Hayes criticism, some others, obviously they're concerned that if the election takes place, or the prosecution of Trump takes the trial takes place after Election Day, it's just not going to happen because he'll be able to use, if he wins the election, he could use the powers that he assumes as president to make some of these things go away. Not the Georgia case, but perhaps the federal case, the Jack Smith case.
That Georgia case.
But they're also mad because they think if it happens before Election Day, that could change the results of the election if he's convicted. And a lot of people are making that assertion that resolving Trump's legal issues before the election will be bad for him if he's convicted, and thus it's important to do that, which is an explicitly political rationale.
Yeah.
Also, a deeply unproven one, frankly. Look, this guy has faced a lot of criminal, like he's been found liable for defamation against E. Jean Carroll. He just had a ruling against him in New York with respect to his businesses.
Yeah.
He's faced. This is a controversial man whose controversies are known, and it has not greatly impacted him. So it's certainly not impacted his support among Republicans. It doesn't, frankly, seem to be the kind of issues that keep independents even at bay. Now, could it damage him? Sure. Polls suggest that people have said that if he were convicted, that would maybe change their mind about whether they want to vote for him.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It's a kind of untested theory.
I think that's a good point. And if I were doing columns for Democrats, which I blessedly am not, I would be focused not so much on the outcome of the trial as having an effect. Because remember, the reason why, and this makes Democrats crazy, the reason why nothing seems to stick to Trump largely is because there's very different media environments. And Democrats have contributed to this, by the way, around the 1-6 messaging. People look at what happened on 1-6. They say Donald Trump was not responsible. This is a witch hunt. They're coming after him from freedom of speech, et cetera, et cetera. Where the trial, I think, might start to peel some voters away from Trump is that it might excavate the nature of the fraud scheme in the weeks preceding January 6th. If that is true, and if that...
You know, he hasn't been convicted yet, man. Ain't nobody said you did this. Congress, they let him go. They trying to do it in the courts. In the courts right now, it ain't looking too good for the courts. I mean, it's a battle. There's definitely a battle. But yeah, come on, y'all. Forget about it. Let's just keep going.
That is
Donald Trump says today's Supreme Court ruling is a, quote, big win for the United States. And we expect to hear from the former president soon. We will bring you those remarks from his Mar-a-Lago home when they happen. In a unanimous ruling, the court said Trump can remain on the ballot for the Republican presidential primary in Colorado. The court struck down an attempt to keep him from running for allegedly taking part in an insurrection.
They got that word again.
CNN legal analyst Norman Eisen joins us now.
See, this is the problem right here. You got to vote. So they want the people to know in America right now, insurrection. No matter what's going on, they're still going to throw that word at you, to get you to might not vote for him. You know, it's just a game. Believe me, it's a game. I know. I know. Shh. I know. Just like that. I know. Me and my job, we do some things. Yeah. It's all. It's a big game, y'all. It's a big game, and they want your vote, and they want to persuade you to vote the way they want you to vote. That's why they don't want you voting for him. You know what I'm saying? Now, am I up here telling you who to vote for? Nah, you know. But don't complain when the shit hit the fan. Don't complain like with them immigrants. You see what happened in Chicago. You see what happened down in Florida, in Texas, and then in New York. And then here it is months and months later, you know what I'm saying, after they done did this, everybody's complaining about it now. But before it was cool. But now it's a problem. So, but, you know, you choose who you want to vote for. It is what it is. You know, this is America. You should, if you don't know the history of it, then shame on you. And it ain't gonna happen again, though. Sure.
In her opinion, Justice Amy Coney Barrett underscored the unanimity of the decision in, and I quote her here, this politically charged issue in the volatile season of a presidential election case. How significant will it be to the American people that this was a unanimous decision?
They hate to say that, boy.
It will be significant that the decision was unanimous in two regards. First, because it establishes that the road to disqualification of insurrectionist candidates for president or other federal offices runs through the United States Congress.
They didn't say that insurrectionist word about 15 times already. We only about 15 minutes in here. I'll tell you, insurrection.
That's something that I and others had pointed to in advance as one of the most likely off-ramps here. So in that regard, very important. But there's a second extremely important unanimous aspect of this opinion that's not being noticed, Becky. They did not explicitly deny the lower court findings that Donald Trump was an insurrectionist. Multiple fact finders have reached that conclusion. Indeed, if you look at the evidence, the January 6th committee, Colorado, Maine, Illinois have all found that, and that was not expressly overturned. And indeed, the three Democratic justices pointed to it in their concurrence. So, in a sense, they have left the question open for the criminal authorities and for the American people what to do about Donald Trump's allegedly criminal conduct.
Let me just get our viewers very briefly what the Colorado Secretary of State said, issuing a statement saying that she is disappointed. She went on to say, Colorado should be able to bar oath-breaking insurrectionists from our ballot. Your point is well taken,
If I had $5 every time they said insurrectionist, man, I'd probably be paid buku. Man, buy me some land, a new car, put my mama some money in the bank and everything, take care of my wife and stuff. I mean, I am. Don't get it wrong. Don't get it wrong. You know what I'm saying? I do. Come on, man. I be on my grind now. I be on my grind. Stop playing. Money ain't the problem right now. No, not right at the moment. It ain't. It's hard to get, but you know, you got to do what you got to do, man. You know, and for all y'all out there, man, don't be scared to get you a 9-to-5, man. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You know, put your pride down. Go get that money, man. Get the bag. Go pick up that bag. Stop playing.
It's good to have you. And an important day. Step back, ultimately, at this point, for our international viewers who may not be as, well imbued in the minutiae of what is going on at present. Ultimately, on the issue of eligibility, Donald Trump has now been cleared to run for president, if indeed that is what the Republican voters want from him, correct?
That's correct. And it's clear that he's going to be successful by all odds. He's accumulated already a daunting delegate lead. Super Tuesday will, according to all the polls, deliver more delegates. One of the curious aspects of this decision is that they waited until the day before Super Tuesday to drop it. It puts the wind in Donald Trump's sails. He's already said it's a win. We'll hear a lot more from him. Why do that in the 24 hours before Super Tuesday, in the media cycle around Super Tuesday? I would not have done that.
This is America. That's when some of the states vote and stuff like that. It's not the fact that the Supreme Court did it for him. They did it so, he can be on the ballot so people can vote for him. duh. I mean, oh Lord. The way people think sometimes is I don't know.
Feels too political.
All right, y'all, let's go to the next one.
This fast and relatively short ruling, which we got today,
oh boy,
is indeed consequential. It draws lines on how this year's election will run. It smacks down state efforts to invoke January 6th as a reason on its own to bar Trump from running at all. Today, the court ruled quite simply states do not have that power over federal candidates. Only Congress does. States have no power under the Constitution to
you gotta say it
enforce
like that.
a ballot ban for insurrectionists with respect to federal offices. The highlighting there, I'll leave that up
the
for a moment.
states have no power under the Constitution to enforce it. Man, look. See, now what they trying to do is separate the people, separate the stop it. Just the president is for the whole America. Can't just one. Colorado is not America. There are millions and billions of people. I'm gonna say billions, but there's millions of people in Colorado that want to vote for Trump. It's millions of people that want to vote for Biden. You know what I'm saying? You got to make it a fair thing. Come on now, got to make it fair. This is America.
Important because if you understand or remember nothing else about all
If the
this,
people
is that
want Trump,
states deal with states.
let the people vote.
But states don't have the same power to deal with federal offices. That is what the Supreme Court ruled today. And all the justices agreed on that point. It was one raised by Obama appointee Justice Elena Kagan during oral arguments for this very case.
I think that the question that you have to confront is why a single state should decide who gets to be president of the United States.
United States.
Kagan's question there slicing through Colorado's argument, as well as some of the other technicalities in this case. Today's ruling built on that angle. The justice is noting there's no tradition of state enforcement of an insurrection disqualification against federal candidates in the years following the ratification of this relevant amendment. And they go on to write that that is a telling indication of a severe constitutional problem with states' efforts here. In law and history, that is just true. It was a new, unprecedented bid for states to try to take the terrible horrors of January 6th and then cite them for a potentially new power that states alone could decide who engaged in insurrection. That'd be step one. And then, two, states would bar federal candidates from those state ballots. Now, we reported on this.
Okay, I'm not saying anything. I mean, y'all have your own opinion. You can write it down in the comments, or you can say what you want to say. You got the right to say what you want to say. But what it dawns on me sometimes is like all these people out there, they're going down there. And he did say protest peacefully. They don't talk about that stuff. You know, they don't always show the stuff that he said. To like, you know, he told people don't go down there, don't be breaking up, whatever, and all that good stuff. He said that. And he gave Nancy Pelosi the military to defend it. Come on now. They turned it down. So, but anyway, it just dawns on me sometime. I think about it. He got these rallies. Trump got these rallies, right? Now, when they go to the rallies, and they be talking about literally the same stuff, they don't march down to their city hall and break the city halls or destroy stuff in their community or in their town. But they did it on this particular day. You see all them people right there. You see all them people. You trying to tell me when nobody in there infiltrating, when nobody in there the bad guy, so all the Republicans that was there, they just came there with one agenda? Or all the MAGA people. And that's another thing. Why come everybody got to be a MAGA insurrection or whatever, a MAGA? That's like a slogan. It's like make America great again. You see what I'm saying? Just like it's initials. You know what I'm saying? It's initials. Like my name is Darnell. People call me D. You know what I'm saying? So when I write DEE, it's just another saying. I'm just saying it's me. MAGA, the only thing it means is make America great again. That's it. It's not a people. It's not a race. You know what I'm saying? MAGA is not a race of people. You know what the fuck?
At the time, we spoke to the Secretary of State for Colorado, Jenna Griswold, and discussed the fact that federal candidates being barred by states was not a thing. So legally, it didn't seem like something the Supreme Court would now make a thing in an election year, no less. Now today, I'm going to walk you through what happened because some of it hits one way and some of it hits another way. And I'm going to do it, I promise, right now in plain English. Today, all 9 justices reached the same judgment. So that means the justices appointed by Trump and the justices appointed by Obama and the other presidents, they all actually shared the same legal conclusion that at a time of great division and understandable cynicism about whether more and more rulings are based on politics and not any independent law, that this kind of ruling shows some cases turn on more than who benefits. In other words, you can't predict today's ruling by whether the judges were appointed by Obama or appointed by Trump or appointed by any other particular party, at least in what this ruling does. So that is a kind of good news. But there is a but.
I knew it.
And I'm going to walk you through the other issues now. And we're not reporting on this because we want to or we welcome some exception to that good news. If the decision stopped there, if the justices had that sort of, shall we say, discipline,
it was a but.
And that's all we'd report on, and we'd go right to our guests. But there's more. Because separate from what you might call that good news for the rule of law tonight, there are actions and statements by this court which also reveal that that type of nonpartisanship only goes so far. So this court was unanimous in the outcome. That means unanimous in the judgment. But it was not at all united in how to make this ruling. In other words, what's in the ruling, what it actually says, how far it goes. All 9 justices were able to agree to concur in the judgment. Indeed, some of the Democratic appointees made that point by saying we concur only in the judgment. That's how they put it. And that is because 5 of the Republican appointees seized on this state case to go way beyond the issue at hand, state power, and just add new rules that they made up today for what they say are the required treatment of potential insurrectionists in a federal context. Now, that's a sweeping and anti-conservative kind of judicial reach. It is also the kind of thing that these same justices who you see on your screen.
Yeah, but what didn't Jack Smith, didn't they make up some new laws for Trump? Like what they do, Alvin Bragg in New York, didn't he make up some new rules? Didn't they make up a whole bunch of new rules for Trump? No, but I'm not saying like that. But now here we go. Now they making up new rules just for Trump. It's just crazy. I don't know. Y'all let me know in the comments though, because I'm just here putting out the content. I'm not in the Supreme Court. I don't know what they thinking about. But I do know this is America, and America is supposed to be a good place. I'm gonna put it like that. After the bad stuff didn't happen, of course, slavery and all that. So we're not gonna even get into that part.
They claim they're against. They've said that in their nomination hearings and other places.
Not bringing it up. I'm just.
And one measure tonight of how far they went.
I'm just talking.
In other words, if you're watching this and you're saying, okay, the news anchor is saying they went far, Ari's saying they went far, even the Democratic appointees are saying they went far, but does that mean they went really far? Well, one measure of this is what Justice Barrett did. She is, of course, a Trump appointee. She concurred that the states do not have these powers, but flatly called out the majority for overstepping, for going beyond the necessities of today's case to limit how the Constitution can bar an oath-breaking insurrectionist from becoming president. Now, some of this debate does get into the weeds, and we can get more into the weeds
later. See, I'm
later.
saying, they keep saying insurrectionist. Ain't nobody, he haven't been to court, he haven't been sentenced, or he haven't been, no judge has hit the hammer and say, yes, you're insurrectionist, and this is going to happen to you, this is going to happen to you, blah, 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 blah. You know, when you go to court and they found you guilty and you got to go do some time and stuff like that, nobody did that yet to him. So why they keep saying, it's like you keep calling me a robber and I ain't robbed nobody. The judge ain't say I robbed nobody. So why you keep saying I'm a robber? The judge and the people ain't even made a decision yet, but you just gonna give me that title. Question for y'all, let me know in the comments. What court has found Trump an insurrection? What court?
In the hour, if you want to stay around with me. But for right now, I'll just tell you, the bottom line is 4 justices concurred because they think the conservative majority used this case as a power grab in ways that would currently only help Trump. So Justice Kavanaugh went farther than he otherwise would because of who this helps, not because of a judicial or legal principle. That's sort of what the other justices suggest in their concurrence. And here's why. No other candidates have been indicted for January 6th activities. No other candidates face any credible criminal legal process about dealing with insurrections. So the fact that the court in the majority went well beyond what it had to do on the state power issue and started talking about new federal rules for how to deal with a potential insurrectionist, whoever that may be, when we all know who that may be. It only may be Donald Trump. And I say that literally. It may be Donald Trump, or legally it may not. In other words, we are a nation of laws, and there's a criminal process to determine his guilt. But there's nobody else around who's saying, oh, God, oof, good. They made new rules making it harder to go after insurrectionists. There's no other federal candidates for president in that position.
Let's keep going.
That's one reason today's ruling is unanimous in its holding, but not some kind of purely nonpartisan kumbaya moment.
All right, let's go.
And there's a second.
Former President Donald Trump is celebrating today following a Supreme Court decision that will, in fact, allow the former president to appear.
Okay, see, like the Young Turks, I think that's the name of their channel. Notice how people, they words is, as we get closer to November, the words, the languages, the way they talk, it's kind of changing a little bit. Because I remember people about a year ago or whatever, they were saying how bad, how terrible. He was destroying democracy, laughing at him and all kind of stuff. You know, pointing a finger at him and just talking crazy. I mean, they still doing it now, but they just change up their tone a little bit.
On state primary ballots. Now, SCOTUS's decision undoes a Colorado ruling that disqualified Trump from the primary ballot by citing January 6th riots as their reasoning behind it. Now, today's ruling comes one day prior to Super Tuesday, when more than a dozen states are set to hold their primary elections. Now, what was the reasoning behind their unanimous decision? The justices said the Constitution does not permit a single state to disqualify a presidential candidate from national office, ruling that such responsibility rests with Congress and not the states. And really, the main argument,
act like they don't understand this right here. Like it's united. It's not one state. You can't just, man.
They're making here is that Basically, that states can make or cite the 14th Amendment in making decisions about elections pertaining to state and local candidates, but they cannot do so in regard to federal candidates or federal elections. That's really the job of Congress. That's the main argument that they made here. But they made another argument as well. The court warned of disruption and chaos if a candidate for nationwide office could be declared ineligible in some states, but not others, based on the same conduct.
All y'all don't know what low key means, and it means more or less like on the low, deep inside them, deep inside somewhere, yeah, they mad.
Nothing in the Constitution requires that we endure such chaos, arriving at any time or different times up to and perhaps beyond the inauguration, the court said in a 13-page unsigned opinion. Now, how did this case come to be? It's important to know about how it came to be. I think that there's this assumption by Trump supporters that it was the Biden White House or the Biden campaign that was egging this on.
Exactly how all this stuff
Biden has
happened.
made a public statement about this in the past, saying that they should allow Trump on the primary ballots. But nonetheless, the challenge to Trump's candidacy was brought by 6 Colorado voters, 4 of whom who happen to be Republicans, 2 of whom happen to be independents. The Colorado Supreme Court found that Trump had engaged in insurrection.
That's what I'm talking about. Back with the gang member stuff. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. Just because, you know, they Republicans don't mean that they for the Republicans. You know, some people say Nikki Haley, they say she's getting paid by the Democrats. You know, they say the Democrats is funding her. Well, was funding her, you know, campaign. You got to go for whatever you believe, y'all. You make up your own, you know, do your own researches and all that stuff, and vote for whoever you want to vote for. You know, I would say, let me know who y'all want to vote for. Put it in the comments, but you can if you want to. But you know, everybody there is freedom of speech, so do what you want to do. It is up to you.
He summoned his supporters to Washington and encouraged them to disrupt Congress's certification of Biden's victory. That was what occurred on January 6th. But that wasn't an argument that persuaded the Supreme Court justices. At oral argument on February 8th, justices from across the ideological spectrum warned of troubling political ramifications if they permitted Colorado's top court to order the leading Republican presidential candidate off the ballot. Several justices suggested that allowing the state court ruling to bar Trump from federal office would throw the presidential race into turmoil and lead other states to try to disqualify Democratic candidates. Now, I can't wait to share the hysterical reaction by the likes of Keith Olbermann. That's gonna be a fun comedic relief moment on the show today. But before we get to that, Cenk, jump in.
We might have millions of people watching this show, but you can be the difference maker, because we just need 1% of our audience to be paid members, and then this show can be around forever. So you can make that difference. Click join now.
I ain't knocking on your promotion and all like that, but I ain't joining.
Understand what the decision is and isn't. So first, they did not adjudicate the insurrection at all. So they say, and not only that, they say the states cannot adjudicate it at all, and apparently the courts can't either. Criminal courts can't either. It has to be an act of Congress, meaning that if Donald Trump was convicted of insurrection after this ruling, I think he could still serve, which goes way too far.
That's what I'm talking about. Congress, Benny Thompson and them, Lance, what was the name? Lance Cheney and all of them. They should have did that when they had the chance to do it. They didn't do it. They didn't. If he did something bad or whatever, that bad, they'd have did it right then and there. Congress, people, Congress.
And that's why Amy Coney Barrett joined the liberal justices in a dissent on that part. So it's unanimous overall that Trump can stay on the ballot. But as far as how far-reaching this decision is, Barrett joined the others in saying, whoa, no. What do you mean that only Congress can decide this? What if Congress is deadlocked on partisan issues having nothing to do with it, whether an insurrection happened or not? So, and it also creates the issue of states then not being able to regulate their own elections at the state level, okay, on this issue particularly. Now, there's one more twist. I want to read you this part of the decision, and then we'll talk about it. They say states may disqualify persons holding or attempting to hold state office. Now, they say that, right, but it's not clear if that applies to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. But definitely not federal office. The states cannot touch federal office. In fact, they say, but states have no power under the Constitution to enforce Section 3 with respect to federal offices, especially the presidency. So
okay, so let me just try to explain that right there real quick. I thinking, like I said, I'm not all that, you know what I'm saying, but you can do your own research. So federal, meaning president, you know what I'm saying? These people, you know, these upper people, you know what I'm saying, that work up there in DC and stuff like this, you know? Vice presidents and all this stuff. I think this is what they're talking about. Now, when they talking about, when he said that the states, they're not going to be able to regulate their own stuff in their state. Nope. That's saying that basically the states, you can vote for like your governor, your mayor, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that for your state. But as for the United States, you know, that's a federal thing right there. The presidency, you know what I'm saying, can't just not one state, you know what I'm saying, make that decision. One state can it can vote for a mayor or for the governor and all that stuff, but you can't vote for the whole America now. The president is for the whole America, not just for one state. It's for the United States. You know what I'm saying? So this something to think about. I don't see why they don't get that. But, I mean, even if he did do the insurrection, I'm just saying, ain't nobody say he did it. No court, no whatever. Congress didn't even say he did it. So, if they ain't making no moves on it, why is everybody else trying to make moves on it and stop them from running and stopping people from voting for who they want to vote for?
Sounds like the states can adjudicate if you went down to January 6th and you were convicted of insurrection and you want to run for mayor, right, or governor, but they cannot adjudicate it if that same person tries to run for Congress or Senate. But on top of that, what it leaves unclear is, can the states take anyone off a ballot for any constitutional reasons if it's the federal office that they're running for, especially
so
the president?
If you was in January 6th and you did something bad and they found out where you was at and whatever, and then you went back home to your state and your state found out that you was up there and you got charged with like them January 6th people that got locked up, they say, you know what I'm saying? Now whenever they get out or whatever, if Trump don't clear them or whatever, whoever don't clear their names or whatever, when they go back, once they get out and they try to run for mayor or governor, they can't do it for the state, but they can run for the presidency of the United States. You see what I'm saying?
See. And so they did not directly address that, but they left that door open. So and there are other parts of the decision that's even broader in terms of saying the states might not have the power to take people off of federal ballots. So
I think that makes sense. So as I was reading about their reasoning and their decision, especially in regard to what states can and can't do, I couldn't help but think about why it's important to protect federal elections from state interference or interference in deciding whether or not the federal candidates should or should not be considered qualified for the ballots. I mean, think about the Civil War and what the Civil War was about, right? So would the federal government want to give the states the kind of power to make that type of decision about federal matters or federal elections?
Yeah, especially in regards to 14th Amendment Section 3. I get.
Do we want the states to have the power to sit there and say, well, guess what? We want to have slavery in this state. Some hey, the states, they can't have all the power now. Cause some of them Some of them out here making some crazy rules as we speak. You know what I'm saying?
The logic of that particular, because think about what Anna's saying. What if South Carolina back then was like, yeah, you say insurrection, I say tomato.
Exactly.
And so these same guys who are part of the Confederacy, I'm going to send up there now. It's a state matter, right? And these are the justices saying it's not a state matter. But one of the things they emphasized, Anna, is that if states make different decisions, and then we got a hodgepodge situation, and this is a total mess. And so
I know of a Democratic primary candidate who's dealing with that. So some states decide to keep this individual off the ballot. Others decide to keep the individual on the ballot. So interesting.
Yeah, so let's take a hypothetical for a future run. Let's say that Arnold Schwarzenegger wanted to run next election cycle, right? And he's a naturalized citizen. He could easily take this case, and it's not a slam dunk, but it moves the ball forward for sure. And take this case and go, well, you guys just said that the states can't decide who can run and who can't. That doesn't mean that he wins. The Supreme Court still has to decide whether he can serve, but that would back up the Federal Election Commission that said naturalized citizens can run and basically shouldn't be taken off the ballot. So a lot of the state yahoos that make these decisions, they don't know anything about constitutional law. They're like,
super interesting, and it's true.
Yeah, and they're like, I don't know. I heard in 8th grade that you shouldn't be on the ballot, so I'm going to take you off. And this is the Supreme Court beginning to say, no, you don't know constitutional law.
See,
that's not your role.
The Supreme Court, whether people like it or not, they go by the Constitution. Whatever's in that Constitution, that's what America's built on, and that's how they left it, and that's how they gonna leave it. And when they hit the Supreme Court is gonna be like, we ain't got no time to play with you. What's in that black and white? If it's in that black and white, that's what's going down.
Okay, put them on the ballot and leave it up to us.
Now, with that said, let's go to Blue MAGA. The ambassador of Blue MAGA, the top ambassador, is a man by the name of Keith Olbermann, who, believe it or not, at one time was a renowned cable news host and now likes to embarrass himself on a regular basis on Twitter. So he posted, following the Supreme Court's unanimous decision, the Supreme Court has betrayed democracy. Its members, including Jackson, meaning Ketanji Brown Jackson, Kagan and Sotomayor, have proved themselves inept at reading comprehension. And collectively, the court has shown itself to be corrupt and illegitimate. It must be dissolved. So there you have.
Hey, that's that dude named Keith too. He got some stuff on there. He said he called them all whores. I'm not laughing about this. I'm just laughing about people are wild. He called all the judges whores. He called them all Trump whores. Put your kids to bed, man. My bad. He called them all whores. You Trump whore.
That a major part of our system of checks and balances should absolutely be dissolved because they had a unanimous decision that he didn't like. Insanity.
Yeah, so I think he's lost his mind.
Totally.
So a couple of things here. Number one, can't they read? Well, wait a minute now. Constitutional law is very complicated. And I could personally attest to the word equal being very much in dispute. Even though it seems like a crystal clear word, it is one that has taken thousands and thousands of pages of Supreme Court decisions to adjudicate what the word equal means. So for Olbermann to do sophistry and be like, oh, they can't read, they should be dissolved, that's childish. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, his main case is you got to vote against Trump because the democracy's on the line. And now he's saying let's dissolve one of the branches of our government. It's a totally indefensible, just moronic. And when you're attacking the liberal justices, look, if there was a money in politics case or other cases where they said something egregious, okay, and I have that conversation. But in this case, they were unanimous for
the American people vote for who they want to vote for. You know, and if you don't like it, if you don't like it, you know, they tell us to leave.
Reason because no one adjudicated Trump to be an insurrectionist other than random Democrats in 2 or 3 states. That's not how the process works. That's not how the process should work. But guys like Oberman, who are blue MAGA, have lost their minds. That's why you call them blue MAGA, right? Red MAGA thinks Trump won the 2020 election, et cetera, so they lost their minds in that way. It detached from objective reality. And blue MAGA is just as detached. The other thing that Oberman is always crying about is, don't believe numbers. Numbers are lies. Only believe my emotions, right? And that is not a rational way to think. And he's become a buffoon, really.
Right, and the numbers
saying that, oh yeah, no polling matters. There's no such thing as science when it comes to polling. The data sucks. Numbers are for losers. Emotions, right?
Totally. I mean, look, I totally understand that commentary when you're dealing with one standout poll, but the results that are pretty damning for Biden in the general have been replicated in poll after poll after poll. At some point, you have to maybe accept reality. And that's part of the problem, Cenk. We have a growing group of people on both sides who just...
They talking different right now, boy. If you ever go watch their channel, go watch some of their videos they did about 8 months ago.
do not want to accept reality. And that makes everything so much more difficult. And what drives me insane is that the media has become super partisan. So you either watch left-wing media or right-wing media, and audiences have become so accustomed to hearing one ideological side that once they get any information that dispels preconceived notions, they don't react well to it. And I think that's part of the problem. And so we obviously have our own political views and our own political, preferences, but the facts are the facts, and we're not gonna hide that from you, even if it's uncomfortable to know what's really going on in the country.
Yeah, it's not that hard. I mean, Oberman was nominally in news before. I mean, so I guess at MSNBC he was mainly doing propaganda for Democrats, and now he's just mask off on it. But so I hate Donald Trump. I probably dislike Donald Trump more than Keith Olbermann does. That doesn't mean I'm gonna lie to you and tell you that he's losing when
God, dog.
He isn't. Every poll shows him up by 4 or 5, and the Democratic candidate has to win by 4 or 5 in order to win the Electoral College. And I'm super curious what these blue MAGA delusional types are going to do when Biden loses.
Blue MAGA.
And at this point, if the election were held today, he'd get landslided. He would lose every swing state. So, right now, if you tell the Obermans of the world, they'll say, no, Nate Silver's lying, Cenk Uygur is lying. And Keith Olbermann literally did that on a podcast last week. Ezra Klein is lying, Bill Maher is lying, and he put me in that group, right? They're all lying, all the numbers are lying, right? You look so deranged and desperate. So what happens when that desperation and emotional, instability runs into the fact that Biden lost, right, in 2024? If that's what happens, I mean, 2-2-2. I don't want Trump to win, but if that happens, are they going to go full MAGA? Are they going to be like, no, they stole the election. No, we don't accept it. Stop the steal. Continue the steal. No, we don't accept it. There's mules. There's 2,000 mules.
I don't know.
It's starting to sound like 2,000 mule territory.
It is interesting that once you expand your mind and accept that there are people on the Democratic side who behave similarly to the hardcore MAGA types who also refuse to accept reality, you kind of see the world for what it really is, right? There is no good side, bad side, people who accept reality and people who don't, meaning Democrats do and Republicans don't. You have a faction in both parties who have just completely lost their minds, and it is concerning.
Right, man, that's enough for them, man. Look, vote for who you want to vote for. It doesn't make you you're not a MAGA or whatever. You shouldn't be a Republican or a Democrat or whatever. Vote for the person that you think that could do the country good. And if you think that's Biden, vote for Biden. If you think it's Trump, vote for Trump. I'm gonna vote for who I'm gonna vote for. So it is what it is. All I gotta say is that I don't like $5 gas prices and the milk. I don't want to buy no $6, $7 gallon of milk. So whoever can get them down, holler at me.
Look, blue MAGA has a longer history.
On the very same day that the disgraced ex-president was supposed to go on trial in a federal courthouse for his efforts to end democracy as we know it. That little January. On the very same day that the disgraced ex-president was supposed to go on trial in a federal courthouse for his efforts to end democracy as we know it. That little January 6th insurrection. The highest court in the land today kept him on the ballot in a ruling that dodges the facts of January 6th and Trump's role in it. But instead, the Supreme Court handed Trump a second gift in as many weeks on a constitutional technicality. In an unsigned opinion, the justices say that states do not have the power to bar candidates from running for federal office. They say this, quote, because the Constitution makes Congress rather than the states responsible for enforcing Section 3 against federal office holders and candidates, we reverse. They're referring to the decision by the Colorado State Supreme Court. Now, that court found that Trump did engage in insurrection by trying to overturn the will of the voters by any means possible, including violence.
How? Who, what? If you commit murder, right? Don't they say innocent to proven guilty? Or if you go to the store still, I'm like, damn, Donna, you always use these crazy words. If you go to the store still and you ain't get caught, then the judge ain't sentenced you. The judge ain't said you was guilty or nothing like that. So.
Section 3 of the 14th Amendment does in fact apply to the presidency. Now, the Supreme Court's decision today does not touch on either the question of whether Trump is or is not an insurrectionist or whether the text of Section 3 applies to him. Instead, it says that only Congress has the power to do anything or to enforce the 14th Amendment. And as Colorado Secretary of State Jena Griswold points out in her reaction to today's ruling, quote, if we had a functioning Congress, we would not be in the situation we're in today with American democracy.
Oh, God.
In a separate opinion, the three liberal justices blasted the majority on the Supreme Court for closing the door on the possibility of federal courts disqualifying Trump or any other candidate who would engage in an insurrection. Writing this, quote, Section 3 serves an important, though rarely needed, role in our democracy. The American people have the power to vote for and elect candidates for national office, and that is a great and a glorious thing. The men who drafted and ratified the 14th Amendment, however, had witnessed an insurrection and rebellion to defend slavery. They wanted to ensure that those who had participated in the insurrection and in possible future insurrections could not return to prominent roles. Today, the majority goes beyond the necessities of this case to limit how Section 3 can bar an oath-breaking insurrectionist from becoming the president.
I think when slavery was going on, when was what the North and the South wanted to keep it going, and the North was like, nah. And then, besides that, it was a whole bunch of other things going on with the Civil War too. So they made the 14th Amendment. So, like, this is the United States. And as the United States, we're going to stop slavery. So y'all states under the 14th Amendment, sit y'all ass down somewhere and cut it out.
Although we agree that Colorado cannot enforce Section 3, we protest the majority's effort to use this case to define the limits of federal enforcement of that provision. That's where we start today with some of our most favorite experts and friends. Former lead investigator for the January 6th Select Committee, Tim Heaphy's back with us. He testified in the Colorado case when it was in front of the state's court. Senior editor for Slate and host of the Amicus podcast, Dahlia Lithwick, is back with us. With me at the table, once again, former top official at the Department of Justice and MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissman's here. And Princeton University professor and distinguished political scholar Eddie Glaude is at the table. So nice to see you, my friends. Let me start with the what of it, Andrew Weissman, with you. What did the Supreme Court say and do today?
So they did a lot more than we thought they would do. Everyone after the oral argument thought that Trump would be allowed to be on the ballot in Colorado and, frankly, any of the other states.
And just explain why we knew that, why we thought that.
Because the argument, a lot of times people say you really can't tell from an argument. Here, there was just no friendly question, and you had no friendly question. You had a legitimate argument. And you had sort of the atmospherics of the court being, we don't want to be the ones deciding this. The reason they went further, and the reason this is a 5-4 decision, is where it sort of went to. Everyone agreed he can be on the ballot in Colorado, and that the states. See,
that's another thing they're going to say. They're going to keep saying 5-4, 5-4, 5-4, when it was a 9-0. I mean, the vote came out 9-0. Point blank, not 5-4.
This. The reason it's 5-4, and notably the men versus the women, which was just a remarkable split, with Amy Coney Barrett joining the 3 so-called liberal justices, was that they said this applies not just to the presidency, but all federal office holders. Technically, what was before them was just the president. But more than that, the big sort of 5-4 split was that the majority said only. It's not that the states can't do it. It's that only Congress can do it. So you're picking the one institution that is completely dysfunctional and isn't going to do it. So if you want the big picture, you want to read this provision out of the Constitution, the only way to do it is to say Congress has to enact legislation to implement Section 3. No room, as you pointed out, for the courts, the federal courts, to step in. That's the part where Amy Coney Barrett said, look, why do we need to reach that? You are sort of needlessly inflaming in a political year the issue when our job in the court should be to try to just decide this issue and lower the volume.
Lowering the volume by not weighing in Tim Heaphy on whether he is or is not an insurrectionist?
Yeah, it doesn't touch the core facts, Nicole. The Supreme Court decides questions of law, not questions of fact. They, as Andrew just explained, found
what's a fact? Well, that's not no. It's not a fact yet. Ain't nobody sentenced. Oh my goodness.
3, the 14th Amendment cannot be invoked by a state government. It has to be invoked by Congress. Some of the justices went further and said it'll take actual enabling legislation. But what America should take away from this is that that's a question of law, not a question of fact. The Supreme Court didn't find that Colorado was wrong in its finding that the former president engaged in insurrection. They actually found that he did. Several states have similarly found, much as our committee recommended. And those are the allegations, the factual allegations that are going to come before federal juries, barring Supreme Court ruling on an immunity question down the road. So it's a victory for the president because it keeps him on the ballot. But again, it just doesn't touch really the core issue here was whether or not what he did on and before January 6th was criminal. We found that it was. Special counsel has alleged that it is. And ideally, a jury will get to decide that question in some months.
Ideally.
If they just said it, Congress got to make that decision. See, they keep trying to slide Congress got to make that decision, and they had the chance to do it, but they didn't. So, I don't know. I guess we're going to see. You know, it just seems like to me, I keep hearing Congress. So, if Congress got to make it, they already had the chance to do it. So, we'll see.
Dahlia, let me show you what Judge Ludick said on this show. We're down in the weeds, but I think our viewers have alongside me. We've all earned our honorary law degrees, right, over the last 6 years. So it's a little technical. Consider yourself warned. But here's Judge Ludick offering a different legal analysis.
It is not necessary in order for the former president to be disqualified or for any other person who comes within the ambit of Section 3 to be disqualified, that he or she have been convicted of an insurrection or rebellion, nor is it necessary that the Congress of the United States have found that the former president or any other person have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the Constitution of the United States. That's what we call in constitutional law the self-executing character, if you will, of Section 3. It does not require a congressional finding, and it does not require criminal conviction.
I guess what's so amazing, I've been back in the chair 6 days, and this is the second day where another body is I guess it's the same body, doesn't want to deal with the whole insurrection thing, doesn't want to deal with the extraordinary nature of what...
Yeah, I'm going to keep saying this.
Trump did. They're not allegations.
Congress
Trump carried out an
it.
insurrection. By November, it'll be part of his convention video, right? I mean, it's who he is. He's running as an insurrectionist. He's running on pardoning his fellow.
Let's go to the next one.
Well, the court didn't exactly disagree with it. They just said that they're not the ones to figure it out. It's not going to be a matter for judicial resolution under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, but it's up to Congress to enforce it. You know, I do agree with that interpretation just because the other parts of the 14th Amendment are self-executing. People can go to court and say that something violates equal protection, even if there's not a federal statute that allows them to do that. But in any event, the Supreme Court punted. And
if anything, they need to get mad at Congress
to act. And so I am working with a number of my colleagues, including Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Eric Swalwell, to revive legislation that we had to set up a process by which we could determine that someone who committed insurrection is disqualified by Section 2 of the 14th Amendment. And the House of Representatives already impeached Donald Trump for participating in insurrection by inciting it. So the House has pronounced upon that, and there was also a 57-43 vote in the Senate. The question is whether Speaker Mike Johnson would allow us to bring this to the floor of the House. Well, I think that's just a reflection of the existing electoral system patchwork that we've got.
So basically, they ain't gonna stop. They're just gonna keep going. They're gonna try to find something.
Candidates who've been able to get on the ballot in some states and not other states. In some states, it's very difficult for an independent or a Green Party or a Libertarian to get on the ballot. In other states, it's much easier to get on. So that patchwork already exists. That's just a reflection of existing electoral federalism. But obviously, the Supreme Court did not want to step up to the plate and deal with the clear textualist meaning of Section 2 of the 14th Amendment, much less did they want to deal with the original purposes.
So I guess they didn't know what they were talking about.
14th Amendment, which was to keep off of keep out of federal office people who'd already proven themselves disloyal and untrustworthy. Okay. Well, first, let me go to your original point about the Supreme Court kicking everything to Congress. I think it only does that when it doesn't like the ultimate inescapable implications of just enforcing the Constitution as written. That's what's happening in this case. But when you take
no, that's exactly what they're doing. They doing it. They whatever's in black and white. That's exactly what they doing. They ain't doing what you just said.
Example in Shelby County versus Holder.
These people are lying to you in your face.
Decided to take up the Voting Rights Act and then cut the heart out of it, dismantling the clearance mechanism, which is in there. So I think that this court just didn't want to go anywhere near it and is saying Congress has to deal with it, knowing that the Congress is split because there's a very narrow Republican majority in the House and a narrow Democratic majority in the Senate. So we're going to fight for it, but it looks like this is a constitutional norm that the people of the United States are going to have to enforce at the ballot. Exactly. Well, the vote to impeach Donald Trump for inciting an insurrection against the Constitution was 232 to 197, and we were joined by 10 Republicans at the time, including famously, of course, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. Most of those members are gone. A couple of them are still around, but it seems like Mike Johnson and leadership of the GOP are very clearly under the spell of Donald Trump and would probably do everything they could to keep this from going to the floor, even though it's just the mere enforcement of a clear constitutional command. As the Supreme Court itself pointed out, they're just saying, we're not the ones to do it. Congress has to be the one to do it.
That's crazy.
It certainly seems, just to bring us to the present day, like the whole immunity argument was contrived solely so Trump could evade justice. I mean, what does it say, in your view, about the court that they're considering it? It makes it an open question.
That's true. I think, though, that's something that you said in the opening and Neil alluded to. The timeline that the court set makes it really clear to me that they took this case to delay the trial. And stay with me here, because I think there's sort of two things to keep an eye on. One is the timeline for deciding the sole issue that's before the Supreme Court, which is this immunity question. What is not before the court, what was not supposed to be before the court, is the trial date. On the immunity issue, both parties should have an interest in having that decided as quickly as possible. The government, of course, because they have an interest in going to trial quickly and keeping the date that should have been tomorrow. And a defendant who's saying there should not even be criminal charges means every day that there are those pending criminal trials, he is suffering the opprobrium of a criminal case. So both parties had an interest in deciding this quickly. So why did the government say yes, and Donald Trump said no, slow walk this, and the court agreed? This is really a slow process. They could have taken the case, as you pointed out with Jamie Raskin, months ago. And so the timeline that they have set, where they could have decided this long ago, is one that really deals with the trial date, which is not in front of them. And, I hope that Neil is right, that there ultimately is a trial, before the election, but they have certainly put that prospect in grave doubt.
All right, y'all. So there you go. So as y'all see, it's up to y'all. Vote who you want to vote for, y'all. And I don't know what to say. They're gonna keep hitting you in the head with the insurrection. They're gonna try to get you to change your vote, but y'all vote for whoever y'all want to vote for. And like I said, I am Earth Zep Tepe, you know what I'm saying? Earth Talk Studios. We in the building, man. We gonna be here every now and then, so, y'all just stay posted. Hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. The more you like, the more the videos get out, so people can hear it, so it is what it is. And by the way, that's me right there. So, you get some time on your hand, you like good music, go check it out. It ain't your normal rap music. Nah, it ain't your normal rap music. I'm coming at a different angle with this music, okay? So I hope if you got ears, I'm all about the lyrics, man. I'm trying to say some important stuff, but if you pay attention, you pay attention. If you don't, you don't. But I am out of here. Yeah, so Donald Trump, Supreme Court. They said it was cool. Let me know what you think in the comment section. We out of here.
Straight up and down, this America. Yo, these are the kids of America. Yo, we live in America. Let's show them how we live in America.
Plus, we just got the sack. Run up a check, place a bet, and watch the money move.
Yeah, we're coming back to back. We pulled it, put up in the scat.